All right, we should be live for a special Sunday stream. Let me double check on YouTube. I know I've been having some problems there. Yeah, once again, not popping up. Come on, YouTube. You gotta figure it out. Yeah, once again. Okay, there we are. We're good now. All right, got a lot to go over. This is gonna be a Sunday special stream, as I just said. Setting up YouTube because it didn't want to launch properly. Special Sunday stream. Okay. Like I said, we have a lot to go over. A lot to go over with the Maduro capture. It happened. The United States went in and they just took him. They just took him in like a few hours. They straight up flew over to Venezuela and were like, "You're coming with us, little Billy." And the people of Venezuela, Venezuelans in the United States, are very happy. They're celebrating all over. Venezuelans are super, super happy over this development. And then the typical deranged leftist lunatic, well, they're being deranged. They're acting like fools. They're supporting and propping up a literal dictator who in 2019 had the military run over his own people. Pretty wacky shit. But yes, I got tons of clips to go over here. Tons of footage to go over of people, Venezuelans, like I said, very happy, very excited. Literally waking up as if it's Christmas, essentially. It's kind of crazy when the left builds up this narrative as if this is a bad thing, but then the people that live there are celebrating like no other. It just kind of tells you everything you need to know. But anyway, we got some stuff to get into. A couple of videos here, a ton of X clips, and then ending off on a Moose on the Loose video. We actually have two Moose on the Loose videos to go into, so let's waste no more time.
Democrats have been up in arms about Maduro's capture, but the administration tonight continues to defend the president's actions.
We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days.
House Democrats, meantime, will hold an emergency caucus meeting tomorrow following the military operation in Venezuela and the capture of Mr. Maduro. It'll be held virtually. To speak more about the congressional reaction, let's bring in South Carolina Congresswoman, the great Nancy Mace. Always great to have you with us, Congresswoman. Real honor. Appreciate your time tonight. I just have to say, I thought Secretary Rubio hit the nail on the head. You can't. Let's be honest, those of us who've been in the Beltway know how this goes. You can't exactly get out there and start sharing all of these details with some congressional lawmakers. First of all, there's a security aspect, and second of all, they didn't exactly have the timing knocked down. Am I right about that?
No, that's right. And at this point, Kevin, I don't see a reason to have any congressional action. This was a very surgical military apprehension for a fugitive. It was not an act of war. And so, I'm going to push back on Democrats that say that it is. And look, I mean, they've defended Iranian terrorism. They've defended terrorism in South America now with Maduro. And, we've got to make sure that we're pushing back. And Trump was right today. Trump talked about and discussed the Monroe Doctrine and discussed how this was a fugitive that we've got to bring in for the narco-terrorism. And quite frankly, I don't even think it compares to Panama, which is to me, a different situation. Thousands of troops. We had nothing of the sort today. We had no American troops killed in action, thank God. They did a very good job. And the one thing I've learned about Donald Trump and the Trump doctrine is that when he sets his mind to it, he's very surgical in his military movements, and it's why he's had a resounding success in Venezuela and around the world.
Also, the action in Iran, obviously, with the strikes on that nuclear facility. And I'm glad you mentioned the Noriega precedents. I found it hypocritical that there were some Democratic lawmakers that were suggesting this was somehow unbelievable, when, in fact, if you just go back a little bit, whether it's Obama and other parts of Syria, et cetera, we have seen actions that take place. But this wasn't exactly even that. As you point out, I think very aptly, we're talking about someone who had been indicted in the Southern District of New York.
That's right. And in the Noriega situation, when President Bush was there, that situation was 24,000 American troops for an extended period of time, for months during that operation, 500 killed in action on the Panamanian side. We did lose some American soldiers devastatingly in that situation, but this is very, very different. The other thing that I want to talk about too, Kevin, is that Democrats today are upset that Trump said that America would run Venezuela. Well, after World War II, it was General MacArthur who was in Japan, running Japan from 1945 to 1952. And it would be great to see Venezuela to be a free country, engaged in trade with our allies like Japan at some point one day. And I trust Donald Trump and the Trump doctrine.
You know, and you make an excellent point, because if you think about it, especially when you listen to the denizens of that great nation, they frankly want the person who actually won the election to be the leader of that country. But in the interim, this is a power vacuum that the president pointed out today that the United States will try to help fill until they can again make a stable, peaceful, and judicious transfer of power in Venezuela. Very quickly, I did want to get your take on this, and that is when you're talking about the power vacuum. This is a delicate circumstance, is it not, for this administration? How do you go about making sure that you put the person in leadership there that the people want, but also don't end up back in a situation where you have someone who wants to play footsie with terrorism and narco-terrorism?
Well, you look at the Monroe Doctrine. I mean, we can't have an axis of evil of China, Iran, and Russia having a footprint in South America. And I trust President Trump. I trust Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth. I trust them to already have a plan in place. They've already probably practiced it. They know who they're going to have on the ground assisting in that endeavor. And the last thing I want to say, Kevin, tonight is that I hope that China and Russia and Iran have their number 2 pencils out and are taking notes. I believe this was very important action today that will have devastating.
Oh, it's funny she said that, because here, let me just find the Twitter post that I saved. Which one was it? Is it this one here? Yeah, this one right here. And I find this kind of funny. Wow. Even CNN admits Russia, China, and Iran are privately impressed by the U.S. military dominance in Venezuela. We're going to listen to this clip real quick.
Tell me how this news is being received in Iran. How's it being received in Russia? How's it being received in China?
All three, predictably, will deplore this kind of activity publicly. Privately, they will be impressed with the military capability here. I would argue none of those three militaries could have executed an operation like this. And again, we tend to just breeze by this. But the idea of finding, fixing, kidnapping, taking him out alive with his wife, no casualties on the side of the U.S., that's an extraordinary military operation. So I think while there will be a lot of public condemnation of the United States, predictably from those three nations, privately they'll be saying to themselves, that's a very capable military. That's not a bad thought to pop up in Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran these days.
Tell me how.
So, yeah, it was very impressive. I'm not obviously denying that. I don't think anybody's denying that. My biggest problem here is whenever CNN does literally anything, we shut them down, we chalk it up to fake news, we chalk it up to they're full of bullshit. But then when it comes to something like this, we're willing to accept what they have to say. I don't know. I find that a bit weird. right? We're willing to dodge around certain things, and then when it comes to something like this, we're willing to accept CNN's word. We're willing to accept the mainstream media's word. Once again, yes, it was a very impressive military operation. I'm not denying that. And I would also agree that I don't think Russia, China, or even Iran, I don't even know why Iran's in this conversation. Trump slapped them around last year pretty nicely. So I don't understand why we're even bothering to talk about them. But, like, they're an absolute joke when it comes to military dominance. And I'm tired of hearing that Iran is this big military threat, especially after what the United States did to them in a matter of like 48 hours. Flew in, bombed their most precious areas, their nuclear reactors, and then pieced out without any casualties or issues. Like, Iran is a joke. I don't even want to fucking hear about that. But Russia and China, yeah, they're probably sitting back going, this is pretty impressive. Especially after what we've seen with Russia's invasion with the Ukraine and how they started everything off. You had all those videos of them flying in with the helicopters, blowing up different towns and stuff like that, dropping in troops. It was an absolute nightmare. It was a terrible, terrible situation. And it was a very sloppy military execution as well. Especially when you see something like this performed, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, or sorry, years later. I was mixing up the Iran-Israel situation with that. But anyway, you compare these two military situations and executions, it makes Russia look like a joke. Once again, I don't know why we're even bothering to speak about Iran at this point. Like, who gives a shit about them? They're an absolute joke. And China, it's like, going back to my main point here. Why are we trusting what CNN has to say? As if they know China and Russia are privately praising this? Right? I don't know. It just seems weird. This whole situation, very crazy, very interesting. Good stuff on the US, though. Maduro needed to be taken down. He just did. He absolutely did. You see the celebrations all over Twitter. Here's somebody who claims they are a #1 Trump hater. And she also goes on to say they've been waiting 25 years for this to happen.
For all my Americans shitting on Trump for bombing Venezuela, let me tell you, I am Trump's #1 hater. I am also Venezuelan. And let me tell you, for all of you that are commenting on social media, oh my God, no war, we didn't sign for this. Oh my God, poor people, they must be so terrified. Let me tell you, every single Venezuelan that is not working for the government, the dictatorship that has been in place for more than 25 years, we are stoked. We are happy. Even the people that are currently still in Venezuela, everyone's happy about this. So can you please just educate yourself and stop spreading this bullshit narrative that, oh my God, poor people, like, they must be so scared. No, we're not scared. We've been waiting for this shit for 25 years. We've lost family members. We've escaped the country. We've had to leave everything behind to start over. Yes, some of us know Trump is a piece of shit, but sometimes you battle the devil with a bigger devil. So let him do what he needs to do, and then we can go back to shitting on him, okay?
Look, I'll give credit where it's due. Typical lunatic that probably has Trump constantly on their mind, but she's not wrong with the, you gotta let him do his thing here because Maduro is a major piece of shit. And this is just whenever the liberals, or whatever the liberals say now when it comes to Donald Trump in this situation, if they're going to demonize him, just remember this. Just remember this. This aged well. The liberals called Maduro illegitimate, a dictator, an ongoing threat to regional peace and security. This is a tweet from 2019, Chrystia Freeland. The crisis in Venezuela created by the illegitimate and dictatorial Maduro regime is an ongoing threat to regional peace and security. This is literally what she posted. I'll click on the original tweet here and I'll go directly to her account, just in case you thought it was fake for some reason. Christia Freeland, right there. Gray check mark and everything. So if the liberals are going to now change the narrative, change their tune to that this is a terrible thing, Orange Man bad because he did this, just remember, they also had this to say. They also had that to say. Kind of funny how that works, right? How they're willing to change the narrative to what they want to believe.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Carney is screwed. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have Donald Trump has rolled in the troops and has captured Maduro from Venezuela. And well, this has major implications for Canada, for Mark Carney. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got this article from the Fraser Institute saying dark cloud.
Yeah, all I gotta say is come tomorrow around 9:30 when the stock market opens, I gotta sell off all the Canadian oil companies I am invested in because my God, this is going to tank Canada's oil industry quite a bit, most likely. I can only imagine the drop tomorrow that's about to happen. Now that Trump can essentially just put in whoever he wants and run Venezuela, all of that oil, all of the resources there, they're going to capitalize on that, obviously, as they should. I mean, why not? If they're going to briefly control it while they find a proper person to take over, yeah, you bet your ass they're most likely going to take a bunch of oil, and that's going to tank Canadian markets. Maybe temporarily. It's hard to say exactly what happens in that case, but I don't think we're going to be doing very well once tomorrow rolls around.
Loom over Canada's economy in 2026. And this was written before this whole situation with Maduro. It says the overall picture is not exactly cheerful. Europe, representing 1/5 of the global economy, remains sluggish. Mark Carney continues to try to mimic and copy what Europe is doing. GDP projected to grow by 1.7% after inflation this year. Main reason in continued gains in consumer spending, which accounts for more than 3/5 of all economic activity, which is pretty sad. After stripping out inflation, money spent by Canadians on goods and services is set to climb by 2.2% in 2025, matching last year's pace. Solid consumer spending has helped offset the impact of dwindling exports, sluggish business investment since 2023, lackluster housing markets. And this all ties in for what's happening here today. It says the job market has lost steam. Unemployment among young people has skyrocketed, with the economy showing little momentum. Employment growth will remain muted next year, as in this year. This was written just a couple days ago in 2025. Unfortunately, there's nothing positive to report on the investment front. Canada has underperformed both United States and several other advanced economies in the amount of investment per employee. The investment gap with the US has steadily widened since 2024. This was the outlook before Maduro's capture stepped into the picture here. What did the Liberals just post the other day? This is coming from December 31st.
Look, a year ago, a lot of people had written us off. But because of you, because of the people in this room, we are stronger than ever. 8.6 million votes. The most votes for any party in Canadian history. The highest Liberal vote share in 50 years.
That's because the NDP completely collapsed. This is all thanks to Jagmeet Singh, and there's nothing to hang your hat on. You should hang your hat on achievements, which he has none of. Also note, the Liberals saying chip in now to help build Canada even stronger in 2026. They're asking for Canadians' taxpayer money, even though they're sending our money over to Africa and Southeast Asia.
That is wild. Oh my God. As if they don't collect enough money from us already. They're begging for donations. I know every political party does this, but talk about pathetic. You've been the government for over a decade now, and you've been a political party for forever. Well before I was around. Well before a lot of people that are alive right now, right? So you've been around for a while. You've been in power for God knows how many years over that time. And you're begging for donations. And yes, you could say this about any political party, sure. But the Liberals to be in power for over a decade, spending billions and billions of dollars on useless programs, sending money overseas, getting involved in scandal after scandal, the amount of bloat and waste and just wasteful spending in total over the past decade, and they're sitting here begging for donations. That's crazy. While they're raising taxes, oh, we're gonna remove the consumer carbon tax while we continue to hike the industrial one, and the fuel standard's gonna go up as well, which has been implemented for I don't even know how long now, but it's been around for a while. And we're gonna create new things like environmental racism and stuff like that, which you'll probably eventually have to pay for as well. Like, it's just crazy at this point, right? Sitting there begging for donations while throwing that money to, like, Ukraine. Send another $1 billion to Brazil. Why not? Give Brazil all the money. I hope this is a donation for Brazil. I hope that's what it's really for. Mark Carney with his big goofy grin. My God, this country it's a clown show. It's a complete and utter clown show.
In Vietnam and all sorts of places. Like, this is absolutely absurd.
Because people believe in what we are building. Our budget, our plan reflects that. We are protecting our communities, our country, our way of life. We are building at home to empower Canadians, and we are diversifying our partners abroad to create a more prosperous and a more independent Canada.
Coming from a guy who is chair of Brookfield with numerous environmental, financial violations, a guy who was pushed to build a new pipeline and still no pipeline. There's an MOU, which doesn't mean anything. And what do we have today? We've got the collapse of the manufacturing sector. Kirk, with this one, you don't realize how alarming Canada's manufacturing collapse is until you look at the manufacturing GDP per capita. Since 2005, Canada's manufacturing GDP per capita has declined 30%. 20 years of decline, the average Canadian produces less and less with no...
And most of that is due to China. You could pretty much say that with every country. Every country that at one point in time was building and manufacturing all kinds of things, it's now cheaper to do it over in China. Companies have realized that, so on and so forth. Especially with all the regulations here in Canada. Like, why would any company want to invest when they have to jump through 20 hoops just to get one thing done? Like, it's just kind of insane. It's really no shock. This country continues to push agendas and ideology that single-handedly has brought it down, and we wonder why companies leave and invest elsewhere where it's cheaper or whatever the case is, where they don't have to jump through, like I said, all these regulatory hoops just to get something done. I mean, the idea that it takes here, let me go through my notes just to give a little bit of a refresher here. The major projects office, and I repeat this as often as I can when it comes to projects being built in Canada, the project needs to be to be screened through this brand new major projects office, which is something Carney just created. Then it needs to go to the Build Canada Committee. So if it gets approved in step 1, it'll go to the Build Canada Committee, which is step 2. If it's approved there, then it eventually goes to Minister LeBlanc or whatever minister is in charge at that time. Right now, I believe it's Dominic LeBlanc. And then only if he likes it will he reference it to the rest of the cabinet and Mark Carney or whoever the prime minister is at the time, for the Liberals, obviously. And then on top of that, this needs to be consulted by every group, Indigenous or whoever wants to be involved at the end of the day, because we have to virtue signal with everybody. So it's a very lengthy process to literally get nothing done. And this MOU, it accomplishes nothing other than increasing the carbon tax. And charts like this, right? It's the writing on the wall. The writing has been on the wall for a while now. So, I don't know.
No surprise, as 25% of the workforce works for the government. And that's what we see here. United States on the top here and Canada here just continues to fall. So whether it's the housing market that's getting hammered, manufacturing jobs are being taken up, skilled workers are leaving Canada. Today, Nicolas Maduro has been captured by the United States, wearing with none other than a fresh Nike jumpsuit here. Donald Trump announcing it, the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country.
Used to launch a spectacular assault, and it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice.
Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Imojiwa. Elon Musk giving congrats here to President Trump for capturing Maduro. Now let's just rewind 24 hours and see how this played out. Chinese officials went over to Venezuela to have talks with Maduro yesterday. This... You can't make this stuff up. Here they are meeting with Maduro yesterday.
Me traes muy buenos recuerdos. Feliz año. Feliz año nuevo. Este es el año del caballo, ¿verdad? Ah, del caballo. Yo soy tigre.
Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night.
Tanto tiempo. Yo lo conocí muy joven. Muy joven.
So yada, yada, yada. They have our meeting here. And what does Donald Trump do? He rolls in with the big guns and captures Maduro. He's just sticking it to China here. Now, this has huge implications for China, for Canada, for Mark Carney. I've been sounding the alarm on this. This is very bad for Canadian oil.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave. We needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not.
He's even saying it right here. This is all about oil. I've been saying this for the past 2 weeks. This is all about oil. We need a pipeline now, and we should be building a refinery as well. We should be getting a pipeline to Prince Rupert being built right now because America is getting off of our oil. Mark Carney missed his window of opportunity here. He is absolutely screwed. He's already a failure. He's going to look even more like a...
Even if we started building a pipeline right now, it wouldn't get complete for another, I don't know, probably 2-3 years, even longer, considering the harsh winters that they would have to go through as well. This isn't something that obviously just gets done in a couple months, and it doesn't matter. We missed the mark years ago. Literally years ago, we missed the mark, and we continue to fall down the slippery slope that the Liberal Party has created for us. If talks for a pipeline were to begin today, it would still take years just for it to be finalized in the discussions alone. This isn't happening anytime soon. The pipeline is a pipe dream, sadly. Sadly. And that's due to the federal government in place. The Liberal government, they don't want anything to do with it. Mark Carney is just tagging along, or just tying on Danielle Smith and Alberta so they don't get even more angry, to put it lightly. Right? The separatism movement there is growing very quickly. Very quickly. Over the past year, even. So, like, They continue to play games with Alberta, and it's just not gonna work out for them. And now this is happening. Venezuelan oil going to the United States. They're gonna build up the infrastructure in Venezuela because Trump can control Venezuela now and implement whichever leader he wants to. Pick and choose and hope for the best. And if that leader starts doing dumb shit, he'll just go in and do the same thing. He'll just take him out as well. It's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. 2026. If we head to a spring election, it would be the perfect opportunity for Mark Carney to jump ship. And it feels like it could be there. It really does. In my opinion, it feels like the potential for Mark Carney to jump ship is becoming more and more of a reality. Because he just can't keep up. He just doesn't have it. He talked a big talk, and for some reason people bought into it. The mainstream media, they sold a good story, I guess, and people bought into it. I didn't personally. I know a lot of people who didn't, but for some reason people did. And now here we are. We're worse off than we were a year ago. We are worse off than we were with Trudeau. And that's crazy to think about. If you would have told me back in like 2022 that somebody would be pushed into our office that is worse than Trudeau, I would be like, holy crap. Like who? What happened? But here we are. We're living that very sad reality. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
A failure here. It gets worse for Mark Carney, though. So in response, Mark Carney is absolutely crickets, has not said anything. Anita Nand came out saying Canada calls on all parties to uphold international law after U.S. capture of Venezuelan president. The left are pushing back against Trump capturing this dictator, Maduro. It's absolutely insane. You know, Table Salt posting this, the government here is absolutely terrified from we will not kneel before Trump to this totally non-committal wish-wash. Since 2019, when Canada closed its embassy in Venezuela, we have refused to recognize any legitimacy of the Maduro regime and opposed its repression of the Venezuelan people, including the persecution of dissenters and particularly political leaders opposed to the regime. In keeping with our long-standing commitment to upholding the rule of law and democracy, Canada calls on all parties to respect international law, and we stand with the people of Venezuela and their desire to live in peaceful and democratic society. This is wish-wash. Like, what is this?
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
Canada is engaging with its international partners and monitoring developments closely. Canada's not doing anything. Let's get real. Aside from sending more
Yeah, the Liberal government's irrelevant.
of our money over to Africa where we can't audit it. That's what you're doing. This is a weak response. Mark Carney hasn't said anything, but Pierre Poilievre has come out strong with the right message here. Congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. The legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan election, Edmundo Gonzalez, should take office along with courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Maria Corina Machado. Down with socialism, long live freedom. Of course, all the socialists in Canada are having a meltdown over this. Capturing a dangerous dictator is such a bad thing. Like this guy, former staffer, Canadian Political. This guy's an absolute clown. Yes, Maduro is a dictator. That does not give U.S. legal authority to bomb their country and kidnap him and his wife. I'm going to show you some stuff make these guys look so stupid. We got Avi Lewis running for NDP.
A basic Google search can make these guys look stupid. For decades now, the US has been doing this very thing. They bomb foreign countries. They go in and take out terror leaders. They've been doing this for decades. They've been doing it well before I was around, and they're probably going to continue well after I'm gone. That's just what they have been doing for forever now. Obama, when he bombed Syria, drone strikes in Syria, taking out Al-Shabaab leaders or whatever that organization was, the terror group. This is something they've been doing forever. It doesn't matter who is president, it's just something they do. But because it's Donald Trump, it gets blown out of proportion. Orange man bad. We need to make this guy the #1 boogeyman of the world, which is something the media does quite successfully. Like, just do a simple Google search of U.S. military operations, just a history of it. You will get military operations for over 100 years doing this stuff. It's just, people are out of touch, people are misinformed. Like I said, people need a boogeyman. They just need a boogeyman. And the media props him up as that.
Leadership here. The U.S. has attacked a country, kidnapped its head of state, and is seizing its oil. Trump has invoked the Monroe Doctrine.
And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine.
This is the point of Canada to stand up, condemn this act of imperialism, reject impunity and the politics of brute force. State clearly that we do not support a U.S. invasion in any way whatsoever, and this includes our oil companies and weapon industry. This is my position as candidate for leader of the NDP. Canada's response has shown why we need NDP. Poilievre applauds Trump. Carney's government cannot muster a single word of criticism. Here we've got...
Oh my God, speaking of irrelevant parties, the NDP. The NDP, as if we need to take their word to heart. Who cares about Don Davies? He's not even going to be around, most likely, after this little election of theirs happens for the party. Yeah, they don't do anything. I don't even know why they're around, honestly. I don't know who's voting for them. They don't do anything.
Interim NDP leader Don Davies with more of the same thing, Apache helicopters attacking in the middle of the night. If true, this is flagrant breach of international law and rules-based system. The U.S. claims to support Canada must strongly condemn it and call for immediate cessation of aggression by the U.S. against the sovereign state of Venezuela. Like, this is so absurd, supporting Maduro.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the...
That's what we're all about. I'm going to skip the rest of this video because I want to get into some of the reaction of actual Venezuelans. Like, I don't really care about what some weirdo leftist has to say. I care about the people that live there and what they have to say, because they're the ones who have lived under this regime, right? Venezuelans, by the literal tens of thousands, millions, you could even say, the entire country, most likely, celebrating this moment. I need to be careful because of music, but yeah, you get the point from that video. Here's some more. Exactly, this right here. You don't need to defend them. They're speaking for themselves. You just need to do a simple Google search. A simple Google search will tell you everything you need to know when it comes to the U.S.'s military operations over the past few decades. Like I said, well before I was around and well after I'm gone, they're going to continue to do this stuff. This is nothing new. Like I said, people just want a boogeyman. People are literally crying. Literally are so happy they are crying he's gone.
Esto no tiene comparación. Gracias, Dios mío. Gracias, Dios. Me arrodillé y lloré en mi casa por él. Es un milagro. Salimos.
Muchas gracias. Por aquí también vemos parte de la juventud venezolana en lágrimas porque hace rato sonaba una canción en la que todos nos pusimos prácticamente a llorar aquí en el arepaso del Doral. Cuéntame qué se...
Mucha emoción, el ambiente es impresionante y el ambiente te cautiva. y uno estar en el momento y tener esto como una experiencia única en la historia es increíble.
¿Cuántos años tienes?
19.
Parte de tu vida o tu vida entera la has vivido ya esperando que esto suceda. ¿Cuántos años tienes viviendo aquí en Estados Unidos?
Tenía 11 años.
¿Tus padres en dónde están?
¿Disculpa?
¿Tus padres están aquí contigo?
Sí, mis padres están acá.
So a lot of these videos are they're people celebrating in the States that are Venezuelan. They're people celebrating in Venezuela. I mean, like, just crazy. Just crazy. The amount of people celebrating. Like I said, it's the entire country.
Venezuela. ¿Listo? Venezuela. Al fin, señor, gracias. Gracias, mi Dios.
Por fin, bendición.
Deranged leftists demonize what happened, and the very people living there are celebrating as if they had won the lottery. Because in their eyes, they have. It's wild how these leftists will... I don't even know, honestly, how they think. It's just so strange. The videos speak for themselves. Like, hours of footage of videos. From all different countries as well. You had Peru. You had Spain. You had Argentina. Like everybody is celebrating. This is worldwide. And this is, yeah, right here. Keep sharing this stuff to drown out the lying commies. That's all they are. They're just a bunch of Marxist idiots.
We are bombing Venezuela right now. It is 2:35 a.m. and Pete Kegsbro, fucking cosplay G.I. Joe, is literally bombing Venezuela. You guys didn't stop them when they were bombing boats in the ocean. You didn't stop them.
Like, nobody cares about your fake outrage. Nobody cares. You have this guy literally running around the streets with the biggest smile on his face while this retarded liberal leftist just says some absolute stupidity. Brain-dead leftist with nothing better to do but to cry on TikTok, fake outrage. Get the hell out of here.
Tanker off the coast of Venezuela like a bunch of fucking pirates. You guys didn't say shit when they bombed Nigeria less than 2 weeks ago. What the fuck are you guys doing? We are the terrorists. We are exporting error to the rest of the world. What the fuck?
Yeah, just pure retardation in leftists. There's no other way to put it. These people are stupid. There's another woman literally crying, bawling her eyes out because this dictator is gone. Like, tears of joy. She is so happy, she can't control her emotions.
Felicidad, tantos años esperar esto, Señor. Gracias, Señor. Ay, Dios mío, esta es una alegría inmensa. Gracias, Señor. Gracias al presidente de Estados Unidos. Yo lo estoy esperando hace 1 año. Cómo he sufrido, cómo no han hecho daño, cómo han matado a mis hermanos. Ay, esto ha sido horrible, mira.
¿Cuántos años tiene usted aquí en los Estados Unidos? ¿Hace cuánto se fue de Venezuela?
Ay, tenemos aquí 8 años ya. 8 años porque nos mataron al hermano mayor y fue fuerte, hermano. Secuestraron a mis hermanos, eso fue fuerte. Y doy gracias a Dios por todo esto.
And we have a channel favorite here also sharing something. I believe this video is actually, yeah, they're celebrating in the US, but once again, you get the point. People are very, very happy. But anyway, you get the idea there. Moving on to the final part of the stream, we're gonna end with a Moose on the Loose video. This one goes a little bit more into the Maduro capture, and I guess for some reason, Carney's next election narrative born from Maduro's capture. We'll see.
That, I think, should lead us to have great suspicion for the true intentions of the United States.
Carney's new election narrative has arrived. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got more fallout here coming from Maduro being captured by America, Donald Trump shipping him up to New York to be tried in a court of law. And with that, we've got more leftist meltdown. The CBC going in overdrive here, trying to drum up this new fear of scary Donald Trump. And this is turning out to be quite the polarizing event. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got new pictures of Maduro, and this is how Trump's going to roll this. They're going to put out these pictures here to embarrass, to humiliate the guy, and to let the world know that this is how Trump is going to handle narco terror lords, a guy who's enslaved his own people, a guy who 2 years ago lost the election and refused to step down. The reason he was able to stay in power is because he has the military on his side. The military in Venezuela is highly corrupt, and he has control over them. This is a major problem going forward because Trump has to deal with that somehow. We've also got a video of him being walked out of the plane. So I think what they're doing here is they flew him over to wherever, the closest point they could, to put him on a boat, and they're sending him up to New York on a boat. They could put him on a plane. They're choosing to stick him on a boat. And with all that said, look who decided to join the party here. It's Mark Carney finally releasing his message here. So he's in a tough position because he can't make a statement either way without losing supporters. So what did he have to say? Listen to this convoluted mess. One of the first actions taken by Canada's new government in March 2025 was to impose additional sanctions on Nicolas Maduro's brutally oppressive and criminal regime, unequivocally condemning his grave breaches of international peace and security, gross and systemic human rights violation and corruption. So he's acknowledging Maduro is bad. What do you think? Is he going to thank Trump? Canada has not recognized the illegitimate regime of Maduro since it stole the 2018 election. The Canadian government therefore welcomes the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people. Quickly jumping out down memory lane, we got the 2024 Venezuelan presidential election. These were the results here. You can see Gonzalez won with 68.7% of the vote versus 30% for Maduro, but he refused to step down, use the military, stayed in power. The Canadian government therefore welcomes the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people. This is all just very generic. Canada has long supported a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process that respects the democratic will of Venezuelan people in keeping with our long-standing commitment to upholding the rule of law, sovereignty, and human rights. Canada calls on all parties to respect international law. International law isn't a thing. There isn't a world government, so that isn't a thing. What they're talking about is the UN, all these eco-bureaucrats that try to make up laws and force them on countries, often on countries that have a lot of power they can't control. So essentially, Carney's taken a little bit of a jab here at Trump, but he doesn't want to say it outright because he's too much of a coward. We stand by the Venezuelan people's sovereign right to decide and build their own future in a peaceful and democratic society. Canada attaches great importance to resolution of crisis through multilateral engagement and in close contact with international partners about ongoing developments. We are first and foremost ready to assist Canadians through our consular officials and our embassy in Bogota, Colombia, and will continue to support Venezuelan refugees. This is an incredibly weak response by Mark Carney. He wanted to try to stay right in the middle and not commit either direction. He knows all the insane leftists who think Maduro had the right to just sit in his palace and completely destroy the lives of the people of Venezuela. He knows he's seen the left who keep bringing up this international law thing as if Maduro gets to be protected by international law while he's breaking the law in his own country. This guy illegally staying in power, and yet leftists think this is a bad thing, that they're getting rid of this narco trafficker terror lord out of Venezuela. We have a lot of replies from creators, and they're just all nailing it. Mario with, you're in a pickle and you know it. Most of your base knows that Maduro was a narco dictator, a thug, and likewise, most of your base suffers from TDS. Hence why you couldn't muster a simple congratulations for a flawless operation and freeing the tens of millions from from a dictatorship rule. Your biggest concern is how this is going to affect the USMCA, given Trump just announced he'll be pumping oil from Venezuela. I mean, that's what it comes down to here. And he goes on to mention here, he took too long to get a deal. Carney's just an absolute loser. He's working for himself. He doesn't care about Canada. We've got Wyatt Claypool. Pathetic statement, no moral clarity, hedging like a gardener because, half your base wants you to condemn Trump and the other half is rational and knows Maduro was a thug who got what was coming to him. Exactly. It's really quite shocking that leftists think it's bad that this guy has been pulled out of the office that he doesn't belong in, that he didn't win. And the fact that all these leftists are going after Pierre Poilievre when it's Mark Carney who can make the decisions right now to approve a refinery, approve a pipeline to the east, approve a pipeline to Prince Rupert, to twin the Trans Mountain pipeline. It should all be going right now. And making a deal for Keystone XL. Sounds like you did nothing but virtue signal as usual, and now you're embarrassed because someone actually had the balls to do something. Carney's a weak man. He's only in it for himself. And we've got table salt. Grok how not to piss off Trump, but also look weak, and also subtly protest regime change, but not make it obvious. That sums up exactly Carney's reply here. In other news, what do we got? Media running. Poilievre lights emergency flares to beg Trump to invade Canada. Oh boy. We do have Pierre Poilievre with another response here. Every day it becomes more and more clear that Mark Carney's testifying against the Northern Gateway pipeline and the Liberal government's cancellation of it was a generational blunder for Canada's economic independence. Now we are in a weakened and dependent position. No matter what they promise now, Liberals will never make it happen. So Poilievre doubling down on this, nailing him on this pipeline that never got built. Mark Carney in full favor of blocking this. Here we've got another video of them parading Maduro around. Brian Lilley saying that they are documenting this and releasing it in a way that is not about humiliation. It's warning to other leaders. Kim Jong-un better go on vacation. And that's true. It is a warning to other leaders, but it's not a warning to all leaders. Obviously, any other narco terror lords might want to watch their back, but it also has to have something in it for America. And that's where the oil comes in. It's a perfect storm. So it's not like Trump is going to roll into Canada, he's roll into Greenland and just completely annex it, use the Apache helicopters and send missiles into the local police station and raid the place and take it over. That's what we're getting from the media, though. This kind of fear mongering, trying to set it up for Mark Carney for his next election run. This scary and dangerous Donald Trump is going to take over our country, but don't worry, we've got Mr. Banker to fight back against Donald Trump. And here we have Exhibit A on CBC. What's next for Venezuela and its hard-hit oil sector after the Maduro capture?
Roxana, just before speaking to you, we were with our colleague Gloria in Montreal, and she was speaking to Venezuelan nationals living in Canada who are celebrating what has taken place, the ousting of Nicolas Maduro, which seems so at odds with so much of the international analysis that we're getting that this may have been an illegal act carried out by the U.S. president. Talk to me about how you're interpreting what is taking place in Venezuela.
You notice that? That's where they're going with this. There seems to be people celebrating, but why would they do that? Trump broke the law. This was an illegal act to get rid of this awful terror lord that was enslaving his own people. The people of Venezuela over a single year, on average, they all lost 20 pounds. That's how bad the food insecurity is there. Now, this is going back a couple of years, but during Maduro's reign. And just so we're clear, this is what Venezuela looks like right now. So I don't know if this is copyright music, even though they're singing it, but I mean, everyone's singing and dancing. They're happy. This is a celebration. It is not like, oh, that evil Trump came in here and took away our awful dictator. We don't like Trump. Is there anyone here who's mad at Trump? I doubt it. I've not seen one Venezuelan mad at Trump for arresting Maduro. Not one. But that's not the narrative they're painting here on CBC.
On the one hand, of course, Venezuelans that have seen their country deteriorate over 2 decades. My concern, the Trump administration has not made clear what is their plan when they say that they are going to run the country. And another very big concern is that they haven't said anything about elections. When are the presidential elections that will help shape Venezuela's future and transition Venezuela to a democracy going to take place? And the oil sector, if that is a prerequisite for such elections, the oil sector is going to take years, if not a decade or more, to come back to a healthy and productive oil sector. So I have some
Yeah, these are concerns. They haven't given more information, and they're painting this narrative that, oh, this is so dangerous, so scary. We've got concerns. What is Trump going to do? And side note, this thing is awesome. America's got some cool toys. Essentially, they have this story on here that's based in nothing other than speculation that Trump might be doing something really bad here. We know what he's doing. He's going to get the oil from Venezuela and enrich America. We know what he's doing. And he got rid of Maduro in the process. The people of Venezuela are happy. It's going to be very good for America financially. It's a win-win for both those nations. It's not like he was just some kind of crappy politician that was not very good at his job. He was a narco-terror lord. It's not like he was a decent guy and Trump came and captured him. He was a really bad dude who had what was coming to him.
Some big concerns about
his own military ran over citizens. Like, what else do you need to know? I don't know what you need to tell people at that point. Like, we're not talking about some lovey-dovey leader here, all right? My God. Like, people are really out of touch with this shit. It's crazy.
What comes next in Venezuela and how long it's going to take and what this means for the U.S. presence and U.S. ability to run the country for the long term.
Okay, so then, Roxana, let's play out two scenarios. Beginning with what your worst case scenario is. Now, there is a lot of skepticism out there about the U.S. president's presence in Venezuela. One thing he has made clear is that the oil is a big factor in this, that they want to reestablish the infrastructure, have American oil companies get into Venezuela, extract that wealth. He said that's how we're going to be involved. They are caretaking of the government. They might be relying on the current vice president who's being sworn in as the president. As you said, no reference to Gonzalez, who was elected last year, or 2 years ago now, I should say. So what, in your mind, would be the worst case scenario with the American presence there?
There it is. Go right to the worst case scenario. Oh my God, Trump is being so evil here. He already said they're working out a plan. They're not just jumping to the first thing, would put Edmundo back in there and then off you guys go. They're figuring it out the way that it'll stay stable. It'll have a democracy, getting rid of this socialist dictatorship. So they're not rushing into it.
The worst case scenario would be a indefinite or protracted U.S. military occupation of Venezuela, where there is no clear path to a democratic transition, where you have a Maduro insider, Maduro crony that has taken over and has agreed to the U.S. government's demands, but without a clear plan for how the country will transition to democracy.
Yeah, but that's not what's going to happen here. They're going to figure out a plan and roll it out. I don't think they're going to be putting 100,000 troops on the ground and running the country as if it's their own like that. They want this to transition to a democracy and quickly. So there's no shortage of leftists melting down. We've got Heather McPherson here originally posting, Trump's administration has decided the rules no longer apply U.S. or international law. International law isn't a thing. Justice does not come from force. It comes from accountability under international law. Maduro's repression does not justify these actions, and Canada must not tolerate any violations of international law. You know what's funny about this is they're bringing him to the courthouse. They're trying him in a court of law. They could have just taken him out to sea and just popped him and he would have been gone. They could have done that, but that's not what they're doing. They're letting a court try him. So what is she complaining about here? The fact that they went in with a Black Hawk helicopter and some troops to go capture him? I mean, he's not going to come out willingly. He's a narco-terror lord. This is such a dumb take. And then she replies on her own post here saying we are witnessing the end of international law. There's no police force to police international law. Thus, it's a set of agreements, but really it can be broken and there's no consequence. It doesn't really exist. We do have conservative Garnet Jenness replying to this ridiculous post here saying he was not the head of state. Maduro's illegitimacy was the overwhelming consensus of the democratic world. Not a single member of the G7 or EU recognized this election. Who considers Maduro president? China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Eritrea, and the NDP. Ouch. Mic drop. Get Heather McPherson an ambulance because that burn is bad. Yep, the Canadian NDP. No logic or reason. Going back to the CBC, we've got Nicolas Maduro, the man of the people, with an iron grip. What a statement. And with that, they bring on this guy. This is an interesting choice for their panel here.
Guest who you see on your screen, this is Ben Rosewell. He's a former Canadian ambassador to Venezuela and a consultant with Catalyze 4.
A consultant with Catalyze 4. Who uses the word catalyze? You already know where this is going. The guy who launched Catalyze 4 is Andrew Bevin. As it says here, he nabbed Anne McGrath from the NDP. It already tells you where this organization stands. Now, if we go down memory lane, Liberal campaign co-director leaving politics after after election win. This is talking about Andrew Bevin. There he is right there. Andrew Bevin arrives to Parliament Hill in Ottawa on Wednesday, November 6, 2024. A longtime Liberal staffer, Bevin previously served as the Chief of Staff in the Paul Martin administration, also worked as Principal Secretary to Stéphane Dion during his time as the leader of the official opposition. And what do we have here? Trudeau appoints new Liberal campaign director. Who is Andrew Bevin? He's a Liberal in the Justin Trudeau government is who he is. And this guy works at his firm. Now that we're caught up, we know exactly where these guys stand.
Let me talk to you first about your reaction to waking up to the news that essentially Venezuela no longer has a president, and that president is on his way to the United States.
Yeah. I have to say, after years and years of seeing the damage that Nicolás Maduro did to his country and to the people of his country, the terrible repression, the crimes against humanity that he committed, there is certainly a tremendous sense of relief that he's gone.
Oh, okay. So we're off to a good start here. You know, crimes against humanity. He's totally a bad guy. Trump totally justified in doing this, right?
Hope for a better Venezuela that begins, but a terrible, terrible way to bring about this change.
Oh, a terrible way to bring about this change. Venezuelans should just keep starving instead of Trump sending in the troops to capture this guy. These leftists are all insane.
The President of the United States also made it very clear that they're taking over. They're going to run the country. Now, you say this may come as a relief for many in Venezuela. Is this the way they want to see that relief?
It's so funny. She even said it. This comes as a relief to the people of Venezuela. They're fine with this. They're like, yeah, come on in, please. We want a democracy like you guys have in America. And here's the CBC fear-mongering this.
So it's the end of one dictator, but it is not the beginning of democracy.
What a statement. Little slight jab there saying that Trump is running this like a half dictator.
Until the elected leader of Venezuela, who is Edmundo González, who now lives in Madrid, is able to take the reins of power in signaling that the United States does not agree with the legitimately elected government. It suggests to me democracy is not even on their radar, let alone not an objective of this. In the same outrageous press conference that President Trump just gave, he also talked about how they're going to seize oil. I mean, this is really the law of the jungle.
We get exactly where this guy stands. He's a liberal. And Trump didn't say he disagrees. He said that they're going to work out a plan to make sure this never happens again, that a dictatorship won't be possible in Venezuela, that it'll be a democracy. There's a difference.
Talk to me about that word outrageous. Why do you say that?
We talk about the norms of the international system and how important they are to any country, including the large countries, but also especially to countries like Canada. We rely on there being some limits on how military force is used in international affairs. We have no...
These weak liberals, they don't understand the real world. Sometimes you got to roll the troops in there and take care of business. You can't be like, hey, Maduro, we sent you an email. Could you please come out of your big palace and stop terrorizing your own citizens? Like, these people are completely out to lunch. The people of Venezuela are not upset about Trump rolling in and getting rid of Maduro. Here they are toppling a Maduro statue. They're breaking the bottom there with a hammer. You can see down here. Look how excited they are. They're just pushing over the statue, but what it means freedom to these people. They're not like, oh, Trump violated international law. I can't believe it. These people don't have enough food to eat. There's narco-terror lords running through their streets, threatening people. Any of the opposition that pushes back against these guys, like as he mentioned, he lives in Madrid in Spain. They'll get whacked in Venezuela. Next up, listen to these wild statements on here. I can't believe they're putting this on national television.
You brought up a number of issues here. One is the word invasion, which I'm sure many people will bristle at, but this is possibly, this is what we might be looking at, especially when the president...
Oh, I'm bristling over here. I'm bristling. The invasion. There's no invasion. They went in there with a SEAL team and they nabbed the guy, bringing him to a court and trying him. There's no invasion. There's not 100,000 Americans storming through the city and wiping people out. This is all propaganda.
And saying we're running the show now. Yeah. They've not been elected to do so. So you talk about the democratically elected president.
Trump hasn't been elected to do so. Neither has Maduro. Maduro didn't step down. They're defending Maduro. You can't make this crap up.
Who's not in the country. The vice president of the country who has seemingly been sworn in to lead for the time being. And then you have Machado, who is widely regarded, at least in the West, as a possible alternative. But in all of this, where are ordinary Venezuelans? How did this country go from being arguably the wealthiest in Latin America, with tremendous oil reserves, so progressive, so forward-moving, to where it is right now?
That's a very long story, and it has a lot to do with overdependence on oil, on any one product that has such a wildly fluctuating price in international markets is always a bad idea. Most countries that depend entirely or heavily on oil tend to be dictatorships. It's a bad product to base your economy on if you want to be a democracy.
That's right, folks. So if you have a lot of oil in your country, it'll automatically be a dictatorship, according to this.
My God, then every country ever is a dictatorship. What the this is why it's so dangerous to watch these outlets without any, second opinion, fact checking, anything. And people that are just gullible and easy to manipulate drink this stuff up and believe every second of it. It's just very sad. Like, this guy is an absolute idiot. This CBC analyst, whatever his name is here, he is a dumbass.
This buffoon. So let's clarify this guy's wild statement here. So basically, if a country has a lot of oil, then it can make a lot of money and it's not reliant on taxpayers' money. Thus, then they wouldn't need to have elections if the government can just stay in power with oil money. That's what he's trying to say here. But in reality, that's not every nation that has a lot of oil. Here we've got crude oil production. America, not a dictatorship. Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. Dictatorships. Russia's electoral authoritarian state. Canada, not a dictatorship. China is a one-party authoritarian state, so dictatorship. Iraq has a weak democracy right now. Brazil has democracy. United Arab Emirates is an absolute monarchy, so essentially dictatorship. Kuwait has monarchy with limited parliament, so essentially dictatorship. Kazakhstan, authoritarian-leaning regime, so you can say dictatorship. Norway is a democracy. Mexico, democracy. Libya is a fragmented state. Qatar is an absolute monarchy. Further down here, we've got United Kingdom, democracy. Australia, democracy. Argentina, Colombia, India, Ecuador, and Malaysia all have weakened democracies. Some of them have some corruption compromise, but they're democracies nonetheless. Either way, his blanket statement here is ridiculous. Clearly, it's not all dictatorships for countries with oil.
But in the more recent past, what I would say is that after the disastrous decisions that the Maduro government took in the management of their difficult economic situation, it's the economic policies of the Maduro government that have devastated the lives of Venezuelans and created the largest mass movement of humans in our hemisphere in its history. And so they are quite widely in support of a democratic transition. There are very, very few Venezuelans that have any time of day for Maduro. He's really hated.
Yeah, exactly. What's the problem here, guys? Does Mark Carney need something else to run on here? Donald Trump's so scary, he's going to come steal all our water and our land. He's going to steal it all. Mark Carney's next election campaign, and he'll be the banker to come save Canada again. This is what they're going to try to run, but it's not going to work because people already know Mark Carney can't get a deal. He's a failure.
In his country and within the international diaspora of Venezuelans, they do very strongly support Edmundo Gonzalez. They voted in record numbers for him. And please note that Maria Corina Machado is an ally of Gonzalez. She told Venezuelans, if you like me, vote for Gonzalez. And her statement this morning is that it's Gonzalez that should be the president, not her. On this note, it's even more alarming that President Trump, having authorized this military intervention to remove a government, is not showing support for the democratically elected president of the country. And
they're just trying to spin this any which way they can. Trump has liberated Venezuelans, but he's not shown support for the government yet. Yeah, they're working out a plan because they don't want to just jump at it right away. They didn't know exactly how this was going to go. They thought they'd have to do 2 runs at it to get Maduro. They got him on the first go. Here on CBC, more fear-mongering. Donald Trump's so bad. Let's just pull back and think about this logically for a second. If they went to Edmundo, who won the election 2 years ago, if the American administration said, hey, we're going to go capture Maduro, do you want to be leader of Venezuela? Well, then that might might get out and tip it off to Maduro. Thus, they did this without telling anyone, and there was no leaks on this. Why would they tell anyone about what they're doing here and jeopardize the mission? That's why this is still up in the air. I'm sure they haven't communicated with him at all, because this all had to be done in secret to get Maduro. CBC is teeing up Mark Carney's next election run here. They're trying to paint this narrative here that Donald Trump is going to just run around the world and take over any country that he wants, and he's going to come for Canada and steal our potash and our oil and our water. Meanwhile, he just did a deal with Belarus to get potash, doing his thing here with Venezuela for oil. Clearly doesn't want to do a deal with Mark Carney. If he was going to come annex us, he would have already done it. He wouldn't go through all this other trouble. This is a narrative that CBC is helping push for Mark Carney for the next election. The Liberals can't run on their record because it's absolutely abysmal. So
the Liberals' track record is abysmal, but we need to keep in mind that for some fucking reason, people voted in Justin Trudeau 3 times. Right? After everything he did, time and time again, they still voted him in. And there were people that wanted to vote him in again, even after he resigned. So, I don't know what to tell you at this point. People are going to vote for the Liberal Party no matter what they do. It's just, for some reason, they have built up this cult following that does not want to think outside of the party. And that is just how they work. I'm sure there's some conservatives like that as well, but at least not to the extent like the Liberals. And they're not as crazy as the Liberals, that's for sure. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. Coming to an end here on the Moose on the Loose video. Thank you for joining on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. It's going to be an interesting one. 2026 starting off with an absolute bang. Starting off with a bang. Hopefully, Parliament returns swiftly, and honestly, if a spring election comes, it'll be wild. Literally, a year to the day we're going into another election. If that were to happen, that'd be fucking wild. Take it easy, Spider-Man, and take it easy, whoever's on Rumble and Kick. Adios, everybody. Have a great rest of your day or night.
Ouch, mic drop. Get Heather McPherson an ambulance because that burn is bad. Yep, the Canadian NDP. No logic or reason. Going back to the CBC, we've got Nicolas Maduro, the man of the people, with an iron grip. What a statement.